Thank you for coming to check out my video. I'm just going to be sharing with you my Vipassana 10-day silent meditation course experience. I won't go over the technique itself. That's something that you can find on other videos or online, but I really recommend you go and learn it directly from the course step by step. But like I said, I'll be sharing my experience, and I just want to really emphasize that everybody's experience is unique. So what I went through isn't necessarily what you'll go through. But yeah, so basically I had a lot of stuff kind of going on in my life, and an opportunity came for me to take this 10-day course. A friend of mine told me about it, and it seemed really interesting. So I applied to go. And I was really nervous about going. I didn't know what to expect, and 10 days of silence and just being stuck with yourself seemed really, really hard. When you go, you can't make eye contact, touch anybody, talk to anybody, read or write anything for 10 whole days. So it's you with yourself, which was very scary for me at the time. But I'm really glad I did it. I live in Calgary, and this location was in Youngstown, Alberta, which is about 3 hours west of here. And yeah, I had friends that were worried that it's a cult. It's not a cult. It's not like one of those exclusive, secretive, authoritarian type things. And it's basically, if you strip away everything, it's a meditation technique that you can apply in your meditation. So the rules are there for a reason, and the course is very meticulously set up, and everything is designed as it should be. So when you go, just try to have an open mind, leave any expectations behind, even expectations of some insights that you want to gain or things that you want to work through. Just try your best to be open and to see what comes up. One of the things that I did that was, I guess, a mistake, was not really a mistake, but I totally overpacked. I packed out of fear. So I packed like my bathrobe. I packed probably like 5 different things to kind of cover up with, because you kind of need layers. Your body temperature changes. And I wish I would have just packed 2 sort of shawl type things. And I didn't need to take my bathrobe, and I didn't need to take an alarm clock. That was something that they have gongs that they ring, so, and there's a schedule so you know what's going on. Yeah, and then as far as what to bring, you know, you're not really sweating a lot, so you could probably bring 5 days worth of clothes. So wear something really loose and comfortable, maybe 5 t-shirts and you know, 3 or 4 loose sort of pants, and make sure it's loose around the waistband as well. And yeah, socks and underwear and some house slippers, because you're going to be taking your shoes on and off. And I had this giant water bottle, which was really nice. I drink about 2 of these a day, so having a water bottle is a good idea. And if you like hot drinks, you know, bring a thermos or something so that you can have some hot tea. As far as packing, yeah, shower shoes would be good. They have outlets, so if you want to bring your electric toothbrush. I was the only one. I felt a little bit like a princess, but I really like my electric toothbrush, so I had that with me. And you're not making eye contact with anybody, so you don't need like makeup and jewelry, even a hair dryer. I have kind of wavy hair, so I did bring my hair dryer. And if you're going in the winter, you might want to, so that when you go outside, your hair doesn't freeze. But anyway, so that's, I think that's all I have to say about packing. And the center in Alberta, it used to be a home for special needs youth, and I think it was abandoned for a while, and they ended up taking loans from old students. They couldn't get a mortgage for it, but that's what paid for the center. And it's just a really nice facility. It's well set up. The men and women are separate from each other as far as living quarters and dining hall. halls. And the only time we're together is in the meditation hall, but we're separate. The men are on the right and the women are on the left. But it's you know, it still has some work that needs to be done, some windows that need to replace. So if you're a window glazer, you know, and you could go and volunteer your time, that would be really wonderful. And it's just in the prairies, so the sunsets are really beautiful, and yeah, just a bunch of wide open field around. And yeah, there's also like a fenced off area for you to walk around in, and that's also separate, the women from the men. And it's kind of funny because everybody's sort of being introspective and not talking, and so we're all kind of walking around, and I can imagine people driving by what they must be thinking, but it's just, my advice to you is don't explore everything on the first day. You have 10 days there, you have lots and lots of time. I'm sure you've seen the schedule, and if not, you can look online, but basically the day starts at 4:30 in the morning, goes till 9:30 at night. There's 10 hours of meditation, so there is time to do some hand washing if you need to do some laundry, but also to walk around. And yeah, so I know people call it a retreat. That's not exactly the word I would use. I specifically call it a course. There's nothing, it's not like a spa you go to. I mean, there are moments of relaxation because you are meditating, but it is hard work, and you definitely get out of it what you put into it. And like I said, if you can be open, that will be really helpful to you. I think I was lucky that the person I gave the ride to this was her third time. So she really alleviated a lot of fear that I had. And so I think if you go there feeling afraid, you might magnify that feeling, and it'll be really difficult to stay there. So just try to be open, and you know, it's 10 days. At the end of the day, the 10th day will come, and you can totally stick it out. And just if you do get into that space of feeling a whole lot of despair, talk to the assistant teachers. You have an opportunity to do that, and really just try to process what you're feeling and sit with it, but don't let it consume and take over your entire journey there. There's lots of time to just think and contemplate and work through things and find the beauty in things. So yeah, so it's not a retreat. Another thing that's really difficult is sitting there for 10 hours a day. So probably the first 3 days, I spent trying all of these different configurations with the cushions to be comfortable. They have kneeling stools and cushions in all shapes and sizes, and it's amazing how creative people got with their configurations. At the end of the day, it's just not going to be comfortable until it was sort of when I finally picked something. So I did have like cushions under my arms to support my arms, but I found that I was tense, kind of trying to keep them from slipping out. So I ended up not using it. I'd say pick a position, whether you're sitting cross-legged or kneeling, and start really simple. So start with basically nothing, and then start adding small pieces as you go, or not necessarily small, but pieces as you go to help support you. And the sooner you can find something, and you won't be comfortable, so just reconcile that you are not going to be comfortable, but the position that you find the most comfort in, sort of stick to that, and then eventually when you get to day 4 is the lesson that you get that will help you for the rest of the time to be able to sit a lot more comfortably. So since I've gotten back, I meditate 2 hours a day, and I don't have any problems with being uncomfortable. You know, occasionally my foot will sort of fall asleep a bit, but it doesn't bother me. So you will reach that point with having that openness that it is a possibility that you can get there. And so, like I said, the 4th day is sort of where you get more lessons about the technique that that helps you deal with this. So I had an incident where, like, I don't want to give too much about the technique, but basically, there's this 1 hour where you're meant to have strong determination and sit still without moving your legs and your arms and opening your eyes. And so I really wanted to sit that 1 hour. And I had this intense pain in my leg. It felt like my muscle was being ripped off my bone. And then I couldn't take it anymore. I moved my leg. And then 5 minutes later, the hour was up. So there's not a clock. So I kind of thought, oh, I could have probably stuck out the remaining 5 minutes. So anyway, like I said, the technique that was taught to us that day was something that came in really handy for me on day 7. So here's again where I want to emphasize that everybody's experience is different. It will likely not be your experience, but it certainly was mine, and it came to as a surprise to me. So basically, the first 6 days, I didn't really have a lot of thoughts bubble up. I had done a lot of work previously leading up to coming here. So in my head, I thought, oh, I found inner peace, and I'm so happy and full of love. And any thoughts that sort of came up, I just said, oh, love and compassion to that person. And, they didn't know any better or whatever, and just sort of let it go. And then 2 times that I met with the teacher to ask about the technique, she asked me, well, what about your thoughts? And I said, well, I don't really have a whole lot. And she said both times, so when you start vomiting and having diarrhea, just don't fight it. Just let it come. And in my head, I thought, I'm just not a vomiting kind of person. Like, in my whole life, I vomited 6 times. I know each one from childhood to up until that point. And so it's just not typically how my body responds to things. And then sure enough, day 7, I wake up feeling completely fine. And at 10:30 in the morning, I have this, like, it feels like almost like a cube, but misshapen, sort of, not really rubber, but kind of feeling in my stomach. And luckily the washroom was right across the hall. And I thought, I'll just go to the washroom, and the trash can was right there. And normally when you get sick, you can kind of feel it bubble up, but I didn't. And I threw up right into the trash can. And then I proceeded to vomit and have diarrhea for the next 17 hours. So probably the first 3 hours is throwing up every 5 to 10 minutes. And I think I was really just purging everything. I had so much that was built up and being stored in my body, and that's how it came out. And luckily I had the technique in a couple of days to practice it. And so Kumi, who is absolutely amazing and took really good care of me, she got me a cold washcloth and a bucket and a few other things and tea and stuff like that. And I ended up making on the table next to my bed like a little, I guess, I don't know what to call it, but I had the washcloth on the table. I put my forehead on it, and then I held the bucket, and I had a blanket under my knees, and I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's get it all out while we're here. We may as well get it all out. And so I was able to handle the situation because I applied the technique and was able to mostly remain equanimous, which is a word you'll learn. And then afterward, my intestines were really sore the next day, but I just felt like this sense of lightness, like, I don't know, like a peace, or even like I had this feeling that I don't have a fear of needles anymore. And actually I did go and visit my grandmother in the hospital when I got back, and her IV had to be changed out. And normally I like, even the thought of it would make me squeamish, and I was able to observe it without having any of those feelings that I normally would have. And I just feel in general much more positive. also, and not just due to the vomiting, but just the entire experience. My prior to this year, this journey, I was very self-critical. Just I wouldn't give myself credit for my achievements. I was frankly, I was really abusive to myself verbally, and I learned to love myself through this journey. And it's amazing when you love yourself, and especially as something that was created. I mean, you know, the energy that was used to create me could have been used to create anything, and yet here I am as a human being. It's something to be really grateful for. And so now when I look in the mirror, I see kindness reflected back. And so once I learned to love myself and not judge and criticize myself, my capacity for love expanded. And so even with my kids, like, I love my kids with all of my being, but it was confined to the constraints of the love that I could have for myself. I don't know if any of this makes sense, but with that expanding, I have more room to love my kids on a fuller and deeper level. And then there's a bunch of other kind of personal insights and stuff that I can't share, but everybody comes sort of in this flux or transition, or just kind of wanting something more different. And so you meet a lot of really interesting and amazing people, and and just be open to seeing what you can learn. And after the 10 days, when the 10 days of silence starts, it's called noble silence. And then they lift the silence and it's called noble chattering. And that's exactly, like, we just couldn't stop talking. And so we were standing outside till 10 o'clock at night, just excited about life and what we had to share. And it was just an amazing, amazing experience. I think you get out of it what you put into it. Just try to be open, and you won't regret going. So if you have an opportunity to go, take it with an openness. And it's completely free. So somebody who went before me paid my way, and I've paid the way for somebody to come after me. And and I want to go back and donate some time. It's just it's been so healing for me and so rewarding, and I've continued my practice. So I feel like I sleep better at night by doing that hour meditation before I go to bed. And I also feel like I'm more energized during the day by starting my day with the hour meditation. It sounds like a lot, but after you've done 10 hours a day for 10 days, 2 hours really isn't that much. So I wish you the best of luck and really enjoy every step of your journey. If you have any questions, you can find me on Twitter at Michelle A. Priest, Priest. I'd be happy to answer your questions. Thank you again.